I want to go over very basic stuff for you guys. A lot of you guys are already going to know this, but the first question always people ask when they're starting to sell for the summer is, what is pest control? If you've never heard of pest control, your family never had it growing up, you might be a little bit like, what the heck am I selling? Is this even something that people buy? And so I want to go over the very basic steps of the service that we sell, how much it costs, and then we'll go from there. So when people call a pest control company, what they're getting, they're not getting like they're not buying bug spray for them to go out and spray them houses themselves. It's more like, if you compare it to a lawn care service, they're not buying a lawnmower, but they're buying a lawn care service where someone shows up to their house every 2 or 3 months with a truck, okay? And then they're gonna have a backpack sprayer that they mix like different chemicals in, like pesticides to kill the bugs. Or sometimes there'll be like a power spray on the truck and they'll pull off a hose. And then they're gonna spray the foundation 3 feet up, 3 feet out, all the way around the house. And that's gonna keep like spiders, ants, earwigs, wasps from being able to come up in through the house. What's also usually included is some granulars in the yard that's gonna get, like ants and earwigs where they burrow. Hobo spider sometimes comes from the grass. And then usually the technician will break out like a big pole and they'll go around the house and then sweep off all of the spider webs. It's got like a brush on top, they call it like a web wand. And then you'll see when you're on people's doorsteps all the spider webs by the lights, and so technicians will clean all that off, and then so we can sell, hey, we're going to clean all that off, and then more importantly, we're going to treat there afterwards so that the spiders and also the wasp nests don't come back. And that's another awesome thing that we can pitch, is that we can pitch preventing the wasp nests from coming back. The way you can often pitch it is, you can definitely knock down your own wasp nest, but then they immediately come right back. We'll actually treat up there with a chemical that keeps them from building their nests. And then depending on the house, we'll actually do the same thing on the fence line so that they don't get a bunch of spider webs on the fence line. And then especially on like wooden fences, but also like in play places, you can go and treat all the different like wooden areas so that the wasp nests don't show up. And then usually we'll look over like patio furniture, barbecues, different places like that. Certain markets, there'll be a lot of black widows like on barbecues. Here in like Idaho, mostly we're hunting for paper wasps and like the play place and on the sheds and stuff like that. Also included in the service is an optional treatment to treat the inside. And we try and do just like entryway and windows, but if some people hate bugs, we'll do all of their baseboards along the inside with like a low impact chemical. And then we also have the option to treat the crawl space. You have to be careful when you're selling the crawl space, because sometimes it can be an annoying as like owning a company to have to always go into people's crawl spaces, because it's not really that necessary. And so what we'll do is we'll usually treat it through the vents from the outside. There'll be like venting places, and there's like a dust product that we puff in through the vents on the outside, and that will act like a bug bomb that will fill the things down there. But if you have a customer that's like, I know I got spiders in my basement, and if you need to get it, or my crawl space, and if you need to like sell the crawl space to get a sale, you can totally sell it. If people have a garage, we'll usually treat the inside of the garage. If there are shops, you can sell the shop. Usually you want to charge a little bit extra. Like if the shop's as big as the house, add an extra $10 a month or $30 a quarter. And then if there's bushes, we can de-web the bushes. Sometimes there's a lot of spider webs and it looks nasty. And then oftentimes in some markets, the bushes will get a lot of paper wasps in them. And so that can be a big selling point too. The service, depending on the market that we're selling in, is going to basically be, it's something that people want. They don't want to have bugs in their house. They don't want to have their house looking dirty with spider webs, and they don't want wasps flying around. And so we can offer that. We can go up to the door and say, hey, we're going to solve all of those problems for you. It's going to cover spiders, ants, earwigs, wasps, mice, rats in some markets, cockroaches in some markets, scorpions. And then the way it will work is they're going to pay a flat monthly rate, 50, 60, 70 bucks a month, sometimes 80, depending on the market that we're in. And then a truck will show up to their house every 2 to 3 months, spray the foundation, do all the other steps. And then the best part is if the customer ever see bugs in their house or around their house, they can get unlimited free retreatments in between the regular service. And so that is what we're selling. The cost, like I said, will usually range from 60 to 80 bucks a month, and then the technician will come out physically every 2 to 3 months unless people see bugs in between. That's the basics of what the heck is pest control. I wanted to go over some of my thoughts though on why having a pest control service is awesome. Because when I was young and 20 and someone was like, hey, you should go sell pest control for the summer, I thought that was the dumbest idea in the world. My family, we grew up poor, and my mom hated chemicals, so my dad was never allowed to spray, bugs around the house. So we just kind of grew up with spiders. And so in my mind, and also we didn't have money, so we never paid for services. Like we changed our own oil and all that stuff. And so when I was getting recruited to come and sell pest control, it didn't make sense to me that there was actually a lot of people out there that would hire a company to come do something for them that in theory you could do for yourself. Now that I am in my 30s and I have a house and I make decent money, the budget of being able to afford it is no longer a question, and I am busy as crap, and I do not like mowing my own yard. I do not like cleaning up my dog's poop. I do not like killing bugs, or I've spraying my own house, and remembering to do that. That's the other best part of the service, is that they come automatically. Like you don't have to remember to have somebody to come. And I guess I just want to go back to my 20-year-old self and be like, you're an idiot. Like now that I'm in my 30s and I have a house, and I'm not as poor as my parents were when I was, when I was a kid. Like, it's absolutely a service that is awesome to have. Not everybody likes it, but that's sort of like, not everybody likes rap music, not everybody likes country music, but those are still great industries that make lots of people happy. And so not everybody in the world needs to love our service, but our job as salesmen is to find people that will love their service, and to be able to use sales skills to help people that don't think they would like it, but because they listen to you and you overcome some of their defensiveness, they decide to give you a shot and ultimately decide they love the service. And the other thing I want to say about why pest control is awesome is I freaking hate bugs. Like I said, my mom hates chemicals. And so we grew up, and literally all the time we would wake up with spider bites. Like probably 3 or 4 times a year you'd wake up and be like, oh yeah, we've got this big spider bite on your arm. And it wouldn't be like a poisonous spider, but it'd be one that it'd be like almost like a giant mosquito bite that I would get. And there'd be like 8 or 9 like little dots, and you'd be scratching them for a few days. And we would get that a lot. Probably 3 or 4 times a year, and I was terrified of it. I remember one time I was at my friend's house. We were in like his basement, like storage area. And I don't know what we were doing, but we turned around, and then there was this big, giant wolf spider like right there on the floor. And we were trapped in there for like 15 minutes trying to figure out how in the world are we going to get out the door where the wolf spider was. And I freaking hate spiders. I remember being at summer camp. And we got this new scoutmaster, and he was like a hardcore scoutmaster. So we didn't get to bring our fancy zip-up tents. No. We had the old army tents, like set up right on the floor, and the spiders and the bugs were just all over it. I hate bugs, and I hate spiders, okay? And I love killing people's bugs, and I love killing people's spiders. There's the old joke, like when you're a kid, like your dad's always like, your dad hates their job, so they're always like, son, when you grow up, you make sure you do something you love, okay? We've all heard that adage before, your dad is grumbling about work. All I care about is that you do something that you love. And, I didn't think that for the last 12 years I would be, killing bugs and selling pest control. But I remember like 5 years ago, I'd been selling pest control for 7 years, kind of thinking to myself, like, I do hate spiders. Like, I hate them with a passion. And you know what? I do love doing pest control. I love killing bugs. And so it was kind of like one of those aha moments where it's like, I didn't get into pest control because it's like, I'm so passionate about it. But it was kind of like a funny moment realizing, you know what, Dad, I did it. I do love my job. I love killing bugs. Yeah, you scared of the bugs? I know, we got to get rid of the bugs, don't we?
Just get them fed. There's so many bugs. It's okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think reptiles are okay. I think they're really interesting.
Yeah.
Mommy, I'm always pausing in this bathroom. Gross. You see, I can see.
Some are even poisonous. I don't think we have to worry about that here.
I just get them.
I've only seen them a couple times, these like red millipedes. Have you seen those before? They're kind of freaky. Yeah. They're kind of freaky. All right, so while we've got Kyle here, I thought, Kyle, you could come up and tell your little story.
So thanks for the opportunity, first off. I did serve my mission in the Congo, the Republic of Congo, Brazzaville. And I was there the whole time. I saw spiders like this big. I saw snakes like longer than my arm span. Saw everything and anything, and I ate most of it too. Now, I get home, and nothing ever happened except for the occasional malaria. Well, 2 months later, about 2 months ago, I actually went into my bed, normal night, and I wake up with this little spot on my hand. And I wonder if you can see it from there, but this little spot on my hand, and I was like, is it an ingrown hair, or is it maybe a little bite? I showed my mom, and she's like, I think it's a spider bite. And I was like, okay, interesting. And so I went over and I was like, well, maybe I'll go into urgent care. It didn't hurt too bad, but it was just kind of like a burning feeling. And then I went into work. I was working on some helicopters and I'd hit it. It started to swell up and I couldn't see any of my knuckles anymore. And I actually got an infection and it turned into a MRSA infection. And I was on antibiotics for like 2 months. My stomach was destroyed. Nothing ever worked out. And I was like, well, you know what I should do? I should probably sell pest control with Dan and Daniel because I have my own life story. I know this stuff works, so got to get it taken care of.
Did they find out that it was what was it?
A black widow.
So they did confirm it was
Yeah,
a black widow?
black widow that apparently got infected with MRSA. Most likely because I went to the wrestling mat with an open bite. So that might have been why. Why the actual reason came in, not sure. That's what happened.
Okay, now I wanted to go over why selling pest control is awesome, okay? So it's great to have a pest control service and it's great to feel confident in what we're selling, but why is it actually fun to sell? And my first thing that I like to say is that you don't have to pitch it as like this is something that you need and you can't do yourself. You can pitch it as a service. So you can pitch it as like, it's like going out to dinner. It's 10 times cheaper if you do it yourself, but sometimes it's nice to hire somebody. Yes, it's not hard to change your own oil, but it's annoying to have to mix the chemicals for spraying your house. But the cool part is why you can pitch to people who are like, I know I can do it myself, but I forget to do it and I don't want to have to remember and I don't want to have to take the time. On the flip side, there are actually parts of it that are difficult to do. I get sales all the time where people have been battling their own mice, their own ants, their own spiders, their own wasps. They do it themselves, but they haven't actually solved the problem, okay? And so you kind of get to play both sides of the fence. And that's, like I said, why I love selling it. I hate chemicals. So like I said, my mom was scared of chemicals. So I grew up with this fear of chemicals. And I have to admit, I've only sprayed a few houses in my years doing pest control because the thought of like getting chemicals on me drives me crazy. And I absolutely want somebody else to have to come and do that for me so that I don't have to like touch chemicals myself. The other thing I love about selling pest control is you can make money just by working hard and finding golden customers. Travis, let's have you come up real quick, okay? Tell the story about the sale that you got yesterday. So we went out and it took me a couple hours to get a deal, but I finally showed him a deal. And then it was a really busy day, so Travis didn't have any chance to role play. Like we didn't like do a role play once. And then I finally showed him a sale, but then I had to get to helping somebody else. And then I was like, well, I guess you're on your own, Travis. And did we even practice the role play once? Or did I think you did it like one time.
Yeah.
And then I was like, all right, good enough. Yep. And then I gave you the script and I was like, okay, walk up to a door, do a crappy pitch, walk down to the curb and practice it. And then tell me about what happened. Yep. Tell me about your first couple pitches and what happened.
He actually, after we role played, he said, yeah, your pitch needs a lot of work. So he did start off with that. And then he was like, but you need to go work on it on the doors. So I go and I'm knocking doors. It was probably about an hour and a half after Daniel left, and I knocked on this door and I got that first paragraph on the pitch. I got through that and then I had a brain freeze. And so I asked like the one question that you shouldn't ask on the doors. I said, so what do you think? And, opens up the door for perfect opportunity for the customer to say, oh, I'm not interested, and close the door on you. Luckily, she didn't say that. She said, what are you selling? And I was like, oh, okay. She said, what control? And I was like, oh, pest control. And then I went right back into the script. Asking her that question gave my brain enough time to like reset and be like, oh, this is where you need to go with this. And the rest of it went pretty well. And
she signed up? What kind of bugs did she have?
Ants mostly.
Ants
yeah.
Mostly?
Yep.
And then you got her for what, $149 initial and $59 a month?
Yep.
And And
Yeah.
then what was it like getting her for the signature? Were you like shaking when she was like?
No, like it was super easy. She asked what the price was, and so I did the whole, hey, how big is your house? And she had no idea. And I was like, well, it looks like it'd be less than 2,000 square feet. So, for us, I went through the whole script, and as soon as I finished with the pricing, she was like, okay. And I was like, great. So, usually we like to text you a couple days before we get out there. I was like, is that good? She's like, yep. And I was like, let me go ahead and get some information from you. And I just took down the information and
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, an hour and a half into ever selling pest control with no practice role playing. Good job, Travis. Okay. So my point is that I think it's the best beginner sales thing to sell. Like if you want to get into sales, it is the best, easiest thing to sell because just by working hard, you can get sales at least one every other day just by talking to enough people. You'll find that golden prospect. They've been thinking about calling a company and they will buy from you. And then also the other benefit is because you're doing it door to door, if you're trying to learn sales, you get to do repetition, and it forces you to become a good salesman that much faster. And like I said, it's easy to learn selling pest control. Like I haven't done alarms or I haven't done solar, but the whole script is maybe 5 minutes long, and there's not a lot of stuff to learn. And you can go out, even your first day, you can just play dumb. Like I know some sales reps that they say, I'm new, I just know that I can kill your bugs for this much. And reps have gotten 100 deals in a summer doing a pitch that's bad. I'm not saying you should do that, but like it's an easy thing to sell and it's an easy thing to learn. The other thing I like about it is, like I said, it's a very short sale. And so when you're at a high volume, like you can get in, get out, and within 10 minutes. I also like that the time to rejection is very short. Within 3 minutes, maybe 5, you kind of know they've either told you no 3 times and it's time to leave, or they're basically going to buy. One of the things that I hate with longer form sales is you have to do an hour presentation and then follow up and then follow up and then maybe do another hour-long presentation. And at the end of it all, you put all of that time and effort and energy into it and they still tell you no. And that's just like depressing because of all the effort you wasted. Here it's like 3 minutes, maybe 5. They tell you no a couple times, you price drop, you do everything you can to get it, and then cool, you just move on to the next one. Okay, so while it's super great for beginner salesmen, on the flip side, there are hundreds of reps out there making multiple 6 figures. So you can make a career with it. And the awesome part is that it's also a great career when you want to go into leadership and recruiting. So obviously, no one wants to knock doors forever, but if you want to make a career out of door-to-door pest control, you can make multiple 6 figures just selling it yourself, and then you can replicate yourself by recruiting teams. And if you do well, you can make millions per year recruiting and leading teams, or better yet, join our partnership program and someday own a branch that you actually own something that's an asset. Like I said, no one wants to knock doors forever, but there is the opportunity to own. The other awesome part about selling pest control is that it's, for most people, like you earn 6 figures, or maybe 20 grand if you're new, or 10 grand if you suck. You do that in 3 or 4 months. And the lifestyle is pretty great. You sprint. Summer sales, pest control is a sprint. You go hard for 3 or 4 or 5 months. You go hard for 3 or 4 months, and then you can take the rest of the summer off, or the rest of the year off. Though, while it is awesome for summer sales, we here at Bigfoot do have a year-round program, and so we do have reps that sell year-round. And that's the other thing I want to say is you can sell it in the winter. You can sell it. My claim to fame is I sold 13 in a blizzard. You can also sell it in Canada where people say there are no bugs, and obviously you can sell it in Florida where there are a ton of bugs. We're here in Boise, Idaho. You don't think there's a ton of bugs here, but I've sold 25 in a day right here in Boise, Idaho, 13 in a blizzard. So, other thing I like about pest control, you can be honest in whatever you're selling, but you absolutely can be honest when selling pest control because there's nothing to hide. It's a 1-year contract. We give them a free guarantee. And there's nothing to be afraid of that you feel like you need to skirt around the edges for. So like I say, you can sell it and you can be honest. Next thing I want to say, if you want to compare other door-to-door sales, I think, there's a tendency in door-to-door sales recruiting to say that alarms is better than pest control and pest control is better than solar and solar is the best of them all. And I really think if you're a guy who can make 100 grand knocking on doors selling pest control, you can make 100 grand knocking on doors selling solar, or whatever it is, that it's, the individual is what gets paid what it's worth. But one of the reasons I like pest control more is that we're only selling a 1-year contract with people. With alarms, you have to sell a 5-year contract, and if they cancel, they have to pay the full remaining balance. And with solar, it's what, a 20-year loan? I don't know all the details, but what, a 20-year loan that they have to set up to pay it off over time. And it's super complex. With pest control, 1-year contract, and it's very simple in that sense. The other reason I like selling pest control is because of the emotional management, okay? So the easy comparison is with alarms. They say like a good alarm salesman gets 1 sale a day. In pest control, you're gonna get 2 or 3 for like a low middle average. That's just a lot easier to manage on the emotions. Like if you go 2 or 3 or 4 days without getting a sale, like that's hard on any door-to-door sales rep. And pest control, that just doesn't happen a lot because you're gonna run into that easy sale that just signs up. And so I'm naturally like, if I don't sell, like I start to get worried. And the good news is you get a constant dopamine hit when selling pest control. And I think for that reason, it's just that much easier. So, and this is more just an analogy in general for door-to-door sales. But if you compare door-to-door sales to like selling cars, the amazing thing about door-to-door sales is that there's unlimited doors you can go knock. Like in a lot of sales positions, whether it's phones or cars or whatever it is, or leads that you follow through whatever, you have to wait for people to come in to find you. With door-to-door sales, there are unlimited sales out there. If you want to work 60, 80 hours a week, you can double the amount of sales that you get, and there's no cap on what you can earn. DDD sales is alive and well. So what I mean by that is selling pest control is awesome. And more specifically, selling pest control door to door is better than it has ever been. And let me explain why. So this is sort of just a generic answer, but one of the reasons why selling pest control door to door is great is because it allows us to build routes that are close together. If you're building a pest control company and you're doing online marketing, you get people all over the city. I've got a friend who's got random accounts 50 minutes away, and there's only like 1 customer up there. And of course, that one always has reservices. When you do door to door, if it gives all of the routes tighter, and so in theory, the company's more profitable, or maybe we can offer cheaper prices. And so that's why we like going door to door selling pest control. And this is sort of a given, but it really is like effective. Like a lot of people think that door to door sales is done, but we're going to people's homes, solving a problem for their home, and then because it's high volume, like you should get a couple sales a day, if not, several sales a day. You end up building neighbors' names that you can drop in the area, and dropping neighbors' names is very effective. Like the bandwagon effect does work on people, and in pest control sales, it's just one of the easiest ways to do it. Like, hey, I'm their bug guy. In some cases, I've been servicing their home for 10 years. I'd like to earn your business as well. It's just super effective. Okay. The other thing about door-to-door, about pest control door-to-door, compared to like selling solar or alarms or satellite or whatever, is that switchovers are like built in. If someone already has a solar panel on their roof, you can't switch them over. But if they have Orkin, you better believe you can switch them over. And so I truly believe like a lot of door-to-door or alarms or solar companies will do like market research to like make sure they're in areas or only knocking on doors that are sort of like warm leads. But in my opinion, all doors are equal in pest control. Like you just got to go knock all of them. And whether it's a renter, you can sell them. If they have a current company, you can sell them. Maybe even if they're moving in 6 months, you can sell them. We'll transfer it to their new house. Like there's almost like no objection that there isn't a way. I've thought of like all the objections I've heard over the years. Some are harder than others, but you can make a sale out of virtually all of them, and that's one of the best things about selling it. Another thing is it's been stable for 30 years. Pest control's been stable for 100 years, but door-to-door pest control, alarms, people still sell alarms these days, but most people don't want to. People still sell dish these days, but most people don't want to. But pest control was kind of the OG summer sales door-to-door thing, and it's still going strong 30 years later with people killing it, making multiple 6 figures. In fact, people are setting records even still today. Another thing I like about pest control door-to-door is that there is a legitimate career path. You're not just forever stuck at being a door-to-door salesman. But if you go into management and leadership and recruiting, you can make more money as a leader, as a manager, as a recruiter. And then better yet, we have a path here at Bigfoot that you can actually own your own branch. So because, eventually you're going to burn out wanting to do door-to-door sales yourself, but maybe you get excitement out of like coaching other people to go, make 6 figures in the summer. But even after 10 years or 15 years, you might get burned out of motivating sales reps all the time. But while you have that grind and that drive to go do it, you can, sell yourself, recruit and lead teams, and then use those teams to sell for your own company that you sell, to build an actual asset that has recurring residual income, because customers stick for many years. And maybe someday you sell that branch for a good exit. So we'll do other videos where we talk about kind of our ownership path and the pros and the pros of that. So the other thing about pest control is it just had its biggest year ever. Okay, in 2023 there is $1 billion of pest control sold door to door. I think that's freaking crazy because, like I said, it's been around for 30 years and everyone thinks, okay, it gets harder and it gets harder. In fact, it's gone through multiple recessions. I've got friends who sold during the 2007, 2008, market crash, 2009. They said that sales was just like it always is. And so, like I said, it's recession proof, not just on the, the company side, but on the door-to-door sales side. But the crazy thing is 30 years later, it's just had its biggest year ever. Here's the craziest part though about selling pest control. The commission rates have doubled in the last 4 years. And it is mind blowing to me. Okay. So let me explain. So in 2012, when I started, the average contract value was probably like $360 per year. Okay. By 2015, that was probably about 450. And then by the time I quote unquote finished my career knocking in 2020, my last summer doing 1,000 accounts, my average contract value was, the industry was between 500 and 600. Okay. That year there was one company that started pushing it into the 700s. And then the next year people started pushing it into the 800s and then the 900s. And in 2023, all of the companies out there are bragging about being between $1,000 and $1,200. Now, in some cases, it's so high that I'm like, maybe we need to keep that between the 800 and 1,000, range per year. But the point of it is, if you could sell a $500 contract or a $1,000 contract, and then also the individual commission rates have gone up. Like back in 2012, there were companies that would pay 12% of a contract value. And I hope most of you land between 30 and 40%. The commissions are higher, the revenue is higher, and the actual percentage rates are higher than ever. The way I kind of think of it is like, holy crap, like if I can, get my contract values higher and sell $1,000 contract values, I can sell half as many sales and make just as much money. Or on the flip side, sell the same amount of sales and make twice as much money. So it's pretty amazing. So in 2016, when I sold 1,200 accounts, as far as I know, it was me and one other guy that cleared 1,000. His name was Brigham Lindsay. And him and I were kind of like the goats. Him and I would compete every year as far as like who's the best in the industry. But I think I've got a couple records that he never broke. But everyone always wants to be the best, but there's always somebody better. So in 2016, I sold 1,200 accounts. He sold 1,000 accounts, and there was 2 people that got the Golden Door Award. The industry switched from thinking about how many accounts can I sell to how much revenue can I sell. And it was that mind shift happened in 2020, where everyone's like, well, instead of, selling one account for $500 or 2 accounts for $500, why don't I sell one account for $1,000? And then people realize that they can push it. Like there's reps now doing $1,400 contract values, which is crazy, but it's also awesome. And so Sam Taggart, the guy who runs the door-to-door con, he said, well, if it's the same amount of money, you make 50% not of the account, or you make 30% not of the contract that you sell or the account that you sell, but you make 30% of the contract value, then maybe we can get a Golden Door Award based on revenue. And so they switched it to get a Golden Door Award. You can either sell 1,000 pest control accounts or sell $650K in revenue. Okay. And so it was a huge shift that happened. But the crazy part is because of that shift that happened, a whole lot more people got a Golden Door Award. In 2023, there were 54 Golden Door Awards in pest control. So these are all guys that sold $650K in revenue or more, and took home, because once you're at the top of the pay scale, you're making 50 or 60% of revenue. These are guys, or 50 or 60% of the contract if you get all the way to the top of the pay scale. Which I hope some of you guys do. There's 54. I think that's just freaking amazing. It's the best time ever to be in door-to-door pest control, and here's my little training on why. So